Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and in this Epic 7 video, going over the Roaming Warrior Leo recall. So that means a selected ticket for a 4-star ML as long as you have a copy of him before the recall period at level 50. And the recall period starts in about a day or so. Now, before that, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and catch me at Twitch at twitch.tv/Wild Neptune. So, like any recall we've had, you get this button here. You get all the stuff you put into him back. You get the selected ticket. And you also get the molas, everything back too. Meteor shards based on the imprint concentration. If you have dupes of Mo Leo and you want a copy of him back, you will have to contact customer support, and directions for that will be on the stove page, of course. Now, in another video, I do say that it seems like he is also going to get a balance update, I think, in addition to this recall in a couple of days. So you probably want to wait until then before you do anything. But once you do decide to do whatever and you decide to recall him, well, I'm going to go over some of the prime, the premier, the best MO 4 stars that you might want to take for your selector. Remember that there is no waiting to use the selector. New heroes don't get added, so it will only be the heroes that up to the point that the selector has been put out. So there's no getting Angel Angelica from this, right? No gaming the system that way. Now, let's go over some of the heroes that you might want to pick up, and we'll be going in order as they appear. And the first one is maybe the best one. It is Crimson Armin. She is a light knight. She is the premier defensive tank almost in the game. Very strong against cleave teams and just general being a very bulky type unit. This is because her passive will just decrease all damage that the party takes by 15% after the molas. She's a very strong S3 with immunity and invincibility on it, and an S1 with a provoke chance, like a lot of other knights. She is relatively easy to gear, so she is very accessible to be just put into a lot of compositions for a lot of players. She doesn't have to be fast anymore. Now the meta strategy with her is to have her be just a little bit slower than most of your units. Of course, some units like no speed counter units will always be the slowest on your teams, but have her go after things like Carrot or Landy to get that invincibility buff, so after they use their attacks, they can't get hurt anymore because you have Armin protecting them. So very strong right now. Definitely recommend for most players, I would say. Champion Zerato is another strong unit as well. He has decent synergy in usability in both PvE and some PvP. His PvP place is kind of weird. On paper, it would seem like he should do a lot better than he kind of does in practice. There are a lot of times where he just doesn't quite do enough to, even if he's countering a bunch of the enemy's skills, that he either doesn't do enough damage or he's not tanky enough, things like that. So he's in kind of a weird spot right now. Even so, in the right circumstance. He is a strong unit and one that you should probably have in your suite of counter picks if you play like that. Just gonna go over Assassin Kachuja very briefly. He did get an EE recently. He's largely untested. I think he's still an MLM. Um, like, a scam, basically. So those are my thoughts there. Assassin Sid, if you have decent speed gear, but not quite enough to cleave, and you want to have a decent anti-cleave option, Assassin Sid might be your guy. His gear requirement is a little bit higher than some of the other units that can be on this list, so this unit will be more targeted towards later game players that might not need this type of video. Kitty Clarissa also recently got an EE. She is a powerful cleanser, especially since her EE gives her some more ER, I believe. Her S3 is a debuff decrease, and her S1 will dual attack with the highest attack member, which is pretty good. On top of that, she's a warrior, so she can hold Strack Gauntlet to give her even more ER to make sure you resist those things that you don't want to get debuffed by. Her weaknesses, obviously, is that she is kind of hard to get bulky if you run high ER, and there are times, too, because she doesn't give immunity, where you kind of get speed screwed, where you might be a little bit too fast in certain circumstances for her to really work, and other times you may be a little bit too slow in other circumstances, so a little bit hard to speed tune depending on what you have and who you're fighting. Alot's pretty much dead in PvP, but there are a few PvE things like Blue Expo and stuff that he's okay in. I don't think he's really worth picking up right now. G-Purgus, another one of the premier 4-stars. Now, I know I said Carmen might be the best one, but G-Purgus might be the best one overall. He is still a menace in PvP right now. His AoE and attack buff with the stun chest and S3 is a loaded S3 for a 4-star. And his CR push on the S2 passive is also extremely powerful. Also, the best Wyvern front in the game. So if you don't have him, I would recommend you pick him. He is very strong. And he's and I think he's even stronger right now in the current meta from what I've seen. Also, he's also a decent anti-cleave unit too. So he pulls a lot of weight in a lot of different setups. I guess we'll go over T Rosette 2 really fast. I don't have him built right now, so he's not somebody I personally can vouch or neg on that much. But for arena defense teams, there's a team going around that's like Ruel, T Rosette, like LRK or like Blue Crowd, something like that, and a DPS like a Landy or a Rem that is very annoying to fight, I will say. He's kind of taken a small step back in World Arena due to things like Carmen and just the fact that LQC has been more rampant recently. Also things like just doesn't quite maybe push out enough overall compared to the other knights, I would say. Crescent Moon Rin, decent hero. Very high gear requirement, probably even higher than a Sid, I would say. If you need her, you probably know whether or not you can actually gear up to be effective for your anti-cleave setups. T-Cern, at one time, she was the one of the better anti-cleave options overall. Right now, she's definitely fallen off quite a bit. She's pretty hard to draft in a lot of situations, and even on things like defense teams, newer strategies like blue rem protector, or like just like red Charlotte landy stuff, has also kind of taken her place in terms of being one of the better DPS units to be used there. And also we have Kawazu, who's the only one I don't have, and who, when I recall, is the one that I will get. Actually, not a, from what I've seen, not the worst thing to maybe counter like a Rem. Because she AoEs, well, he gets the push and he can kill somebody. So there's that. Now, as a recap, if you have none of these heroes, I would first of all recommend General Purgus. If you already have him, I would recommend Crimson Armin. So those two, in my opinion, are a good league or two above everybody else on this list, right? After that, it's up to you. I would say that, for what I've witnessed, that Inferno Kawazu and Zerato are probably the next two. Everybody else, really, is going to be more of a counter pick. So none of them are really going to see use in like every other fight. Carmen and G Purgus, you can literally draft them like every fight almost, and they'll almost always be good. Right? I guess Trozette too, you can also draft in most fights, and it'll be decent enough, right? But his ceiling, I don't think is as high as when he drafts a Kawazu or Zerato as a counter pick, or like it's CRN as a counter pick. But those are my thoughts on the 4 stars that might be worth picking up from the selector. Don't forget again that there is the balance update in a couple of days, and I would wait for that to appear, because maybe one of these other 4 stars, maybe one of them will get buffed, and maybe you'll want to change your mind on that, right? But I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one.